everyone, welcome to Sunspot for the week of June the 21st. As usual, I have council member, former mayor David Hill with me. Thanks for being here. Still struggling with not saying mayor. I guess, hey, if I'm referring to Trump, I'm going to call him president. So you're mayor, whether you like it or not. So we have a number of things we want to talk with you about and share with you. Before getting to that, I want to let you know about a couple of things. One, there will not be a Sunspot for next week, the week of June the 28th. So we will pick back up the week of July the 4th, which is hard to imagine. It's already here. So exciting time for Waxahachie. So no Sunspot for next week. And I also want to let you know we're excited to put the finishing touches on a promotion involving Sunspot and the Waxahachie Sun, an opportunity for viewers and readers, one anyway, lucky winner to win up to $500 each month. So we'll be sharing more specifics with you in the weeks to come, but we're excited about that. It will happen in the month of July for sure, and then carry on into the fall, into September, thereabouts. So looking forward to that. So with that said, again, thanks, David, for being here.
You're welcome.
And I also want to let you all know that David, as far as I'm concerned, and certainly want him to be here, will continue being here for as long as he'd like. So David has proven to be an articulate voice for all things related to the city of Waxahachie. As we keep telling you, we'll have more members of the team from the city here, but in this case, David will continue to be a part of Sunspot in perpetuity. So and when that changes, if it ever changes, we'll let you know. So that all said, there are about 6 things we want to share with you today. Some will take a little longer than the others to share, but the first is an item that came up Monday night. This past Monday night at council was the work being done, soon to begin being done, for the new annex for City Hall that will be located downtown just across the street from where you are.
Right.
So I thought I would just let Mayor share some ins and outs about that, and then I'll have some questions, and at least you'll have a sense of what's going on straight from the horse's mouth. So tell us about what's happening down there.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Better to be at the mouth end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We have 2 buildings across the street. Everybody, when I say everybody, most people know that we're going to build an annex. So we've got 2 buildings that we need to demolish. That was the old lumber yard, and I think the other building is a brick building that used to be a car dealership years ago. Mm-hmm. Historic preservation people have looked at it, and they said it's okay for us to go ahead and do what we're going to do. There's nothing in it that was salvageable, that was historic. So if you want a memory brick or something like that, you might be able to pick one up as we start the demo. But I think they're going to, we talked about it and voted for it Monday night, so the money is there, and the contractor, I think, said it'd take about 45 days to get it all cleaned up and off-site.
Right.
So it's really not a major deal, but it is the beginning of our new annex process.
You know, sometimes these demos can be pretty spectacular in nature, but in this case, it's
there's no implosion, no explosion.
No reason to come down and watch.
Well, people will.
Yeah.
We'll have to block off. I think they're going to narrow the street down to 1 lane and try to reroute traffic for a few days. I mean, it's not going to be the whole process. Right. But there's enough room behind both buildings to be able to get the demo down without having to take up the entire street and block it off. But they'll all the utilities in front of that new annex will be underground now, so all the power poles and electrical poles will be gone, which will give you a better view of the new annex.
Right.
So as soon as we get it demoed, they've got utilities that have to be run under Rogers and make connections, and so there'll be road cuttings and closures. But
right.
The overall process of the demo is about a month and a half. So
and when do
it goes pretty quickly.
Yeah. When do you expect the new annex to be ready for
finished.
business. Yeah.
September of 22-ish.
So
Yeah.
a year, a
It's
little less than a year and a half.
490 days or 480 days, I think, whatever the schedule
Right.
said. But it's going to be a 3-story building, a beautiful building. The picture's been on online quite a bit for people to look at. The first 2 floors, we'll build those out, and they'll be used by staff, obviously. And then the 3rd floor will be expandable. So if we need future room, they'll go ahead and run the elevator 3rd floor, get utilities stubbed out, but it'll be a
Right.
dead space.
So the annex will not only house City Hall staff,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be built such that it will accommodate retail or other, maybe not retail.
Kinda.
But, yeah. Okay.
I mean, right now we're talking about how those spaces will be used. I think it's going to be 5,000-6,000 square foot on the end of the building, little L-shaped area with we're going to put a little PD station in, so we'll have some police present downtown, a little hub area
Right.
for them.
Right.
But we may have CVB or a chamber, who knows, want to lease some of those areas, or maybe work an agreement with the city. So it's not going to be, the city's not going to be renting and leasing places for funds for the city. So.
Right. Okay. And what happens to current City Hall?
It'll still be used. We've got people. Everybody should go into the basement, where everybody is on the 1st floor, and see. We've got people in the hallway with cubicles.
Really?
So we've got people stacked up in offices. We've used closets, and so it's just completely out of space. And the other thing, that the annex that's there now that we call City Hall was built in 2000.
Okay.
So and the old library that was where Michael's office is,
Right.
that was 100 years old. Just trying to get IT happy in that building was very difficult. We've spent a lot of money in the past trying to get computers to work properly in an antiquated place. So, I mean, the elevator shaft has water in it, and we're always pumping water out because it's not an aquifer there, but it's limestone and it has water running through it.
Yeah.
So there's issues with that place, and main thing is we're just out of room.
Right.
So even the 26,000 square feet, I mean, that's not all just office space. That's conference room, meeting room for meeting with developers and obviously, the people in the community that have to do business at City Hall. So
Yeah, I think the only time I've been, I guess that it would be the basements or the water department.
Yeah.
That's in the basement, correct?
Right, yeah. Planning and zoning, water, pavement, all of our building people are down the bottom.
Okay.
So, and then the 2nd floor is City Hall. I mean, the council room.
Right.
And our municipal court.
Right.
That takes up the majority of the 2nd floor.
Right.
City secretary, economic development, and Michael and city manager,
Right.
assistant city manager Albert and Anita, people like that are on the first. I guess it's part of the 1st floor of the old library area, and then the bottom floor is water of the annex that we added on in 2000.
Okay.
2nd floor is council.
Will the new place have space for city council members and the mayor, or will it be like now? Where it's,
we're still just like we still
like
have
now.
no home.
Yeah, okay.
So they'll have a meeting room, just like we have a meeting room in the old place right now. It's called the mayor's room.
Yeah.
It'll seat 6 at a round table, and it's got a little monitor in there, and you can make presentations.
Right.
But they use that for staff meeting. I mean, if I needed it, or if the new mayor were to need it, he'd have to call the city secretary and say, "Can you schedule me some time in there, because the rest of the staff is in there."
Yeah.
I mean, we start our budgets, and this is what right now we're going through budget cycle and budget meetings. So every day they're having group meetings of working on their budgets, which is that's a 7-month process before we finally get to the other end.
Yeah.
So a lot going on, and the city's continuing to grow. This gives us additional space going into the future as
Yeah.
well. So.
And I think it's maybe we don't spend a lot of time on it, but there are people out there concerned about any compromise of historical buildings and that sort of
Sure.
thing. And it may be that you want to share with them how the city views that and
Well, we
handles
don't. History is history, and I think most people want to preserve as much as we can.
Right.
Some things are not. I mean, just because you look at it and say it's an old building doesn't mean it's historical.
Yeah.
I live on Marvin, West Marvin. My house was built by the Lumpkin family. It's built in 1907. On the registry, though, I'm third tier. Even though my house is painted and clean and I've got original windows and I haven't altered it, it still was by the Historic Society when they came in and they graded all the buildings. They said, "Mine, you can, you can save it if you want to.
Yeah.
But if you want to change anything, go ahead and do it because it's really not what we consider
historical.
the historical aspects." So, but we have things that are like that. Our Chautauqua, I mean, that's you don't even go out there and think you're going to touch that thing.
Right.
You'll meet a bunch of people out there that you may not want to
Be happy. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but and that's good. That's why we saved a little. We did the little mitigation deal for the handrail, for the viaduct. That was 5 years ago when we talked about doing that. We were going to try to get more of the handrail, but that's 14,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So they had to saw cut it down, 36-inch concrete saw, 8-man crew, and
a lot of work.
A crane to get 14,000 pounds moved down and set it at a park.
Yeah.
So, but we now have that. We've got all the plaques that go with it, and all that will be out there. So when you come down the trailhead to Railway Park, you'll be able to see that and say that's those two over there that are brand new now. That's the section of the old one.
Yeah.
So.
Those things are cool. It reminds me of, I believe it's Cincinnati or St. Louis, the ballpark, baseball park in one of those cities imploded the old one, except for the area of home plate, and made it a preserved part of the new stadium out in the outfield somewhere, in the wall or something. And so those things are cool and are really touristy in
they are,
many respects.
and I mean, Texas is very historical.
Yeah.
So people love to go see stuff like that. They'll stop on the side of the road and read a plaque.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. If I see
too.
one, I find it very interesting. And you know, we went up to Boston, and you walk through the graveyards in Boston, and John Hancock, people like that. I always wonder where they put him.
Yeah.
They always say, "Put your John Hancock there."
Yeah.
Well, now we know where there
he
right?
is, yeah.
So, but it's if you love history, and if you studied that when you were a kid in high school or college or whatever, if you're a fan of that,
It's meaningful.
yeah, it's very meaningful to a lot of people, and we're totally aware of that. So we do what we can do.
Okay, so there you have it. All you wanted to know and a little bit more about the new annex coming. Of course, we have a story in this past Wednesday's Sun, a lead story about the annex, so feel free to check that out. If you have any questions, let us know. Another thing I thought we could briefly talk about is that Waxahachie is blessed with an attractive, appealing parks system. There are certain parks I go to often, but there are some that I don't, and one of those happens to be Penn Park. And I was over there the other day and just stopped and looked at it, and I was amazed at the size of it. A young man, kind of crazy, but a young man was riding a horse around there. He didn't go out on any fields or anything, but he was having a good old time riding his horse out there. But from basketball to pavilions to
It's Texas.
yeah, that's right. Well, football field, and more.
Right.
So, how many parks do we have?
Well, we have 18 that are documented, but 23 on the website if you go to on the city's website and look. But I think 18 that we really call parks. The other items are trailheads and trails and small things like that.
Right.
But our parks for years had the old antiquated swing sets and merry-go-round and things like that.
Yeah.
Stainless steel slides.
Yeah.
which are good if you're wearing blue jeans.
Yeah, right.
But on a hot day in shorts,
Yeah,
yeah,
like a stove.
it's not fun.
Yeah.
But so a few years ago, we decided that we needed to upgrade all the playground equipment. We went to WCDC and asked them for some money. I think they gave Parks Department about $1.5 million to get started. So they kind of split that up amongst all the 18 parks, and we spent $500 to I think $100,000 per park.
Okay.
It's kind of the way they allocated it. Some got a little bit more, some got a little bit less, but they spent $1.5 million and just kind of did a new section of playground equipment at each park.
Yeah.
The best to start the process, with the promise that we were going to continue to do that, to add amenities to the parks and expand those park systems.
Would that be done on an annual basis or just
We do it
whenever?
we're doing it every year
Yeah.
now. This year we put in, of course, we did the Little Creek Trail that goes from Farley all the way over to behind HEB,
Right.
across Brown Street,
Right.
through Chapman Park. So that was last year and finished up this year. We also added a new restroom facility there in Chapman Park. Put a new one where our new cemetery is going, over on Jefferson, where the old cemetery is out there by
Yep.
Richards Park.
Right.
Put a restroom out there. And then one out at Lions Park. So every year we allocate money. Of course, we have a parks department that takes care of all that stuff, Getson Dinners and all the major parks. They've got about a $2.5 million budget just for taking care of the park system,
Yeah.
which does not include any amenities added.
Right.
All that comes from general fund or economic development of some sort, stream of financing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and we're doing a parks master plan for Lake Waxahachie, which is 3 parks out there. We have Boat Dock, Spring Park, and Jetty. So for years we would go out and spend $150,000, $200,000 to do something, and we'd get high tide, and all of our gravel would disappear.
Yeah.
So this year we decided we're going to hire a planner and let him come in and look at that entire coastline and give us a master plan of development for that. And we may spend $3, $4, $5 million out at those 3 parks.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a plan of how to do it, rather than just throwing a little bit here. And for us to sit down and try to figure out how many boats can park and how many trailers, we're not space planners.
Right.
But we know kind of in our minds what we want to do, what we want to look at. They've already been back with the first renderings and said, this is everything in our catalog that we think we can put in at your lake.
Nice.
And it was way more than anybody was even thinking. So now you start going through and saying, we really don't need that. We need, but we want to be discreet. We want it to look nice. We want the people that live at the lake to look at it and say, we like that, and not be ashamed to have people come out. Yeah. So that plan is kind of working through the system, and the Parks Board will work on that, and then when they get their it winnow down to where they think this is the plan they want to pursue, they'll bring it to council, and
Let you guys vote.
we'll vote on it. Yeah.
Okay. So Waxahachie, among many things, is blessed to have a quality park system, and having lived in cities that don't have such quality park systems, it's we should be thankful for what we have. And if you haven't had a chance to get out and visit these parks, and I'm speaking to myself, it's certainly worth the time and the effort. They're really nice.
Yeah, and when we do developments, when the developer comes in, we sit down and do an agreement with these people that want to build a subdivision out of 300, 400, 500 acres or 80 acres or whatever. There's always green space that's dedicated, whether it's a park. When we did Garden Valley, we did Matthews Park. Hargrove donated that land. So that little park right there, which is kind of barren, It has a splash pad, and it's got a few crepe myrtles, and it's got a little parking area,
Right.
pavilion, and stuff like that. It's a neat start.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've already got plans to add to that. We just had a truck show in the park.
Yeah.
So my son does that, and it has nothing to do with the city. He just loves trucks.
Yeah.
He does that and promotes it. Well, they had an incident out there where something was done that the organizers of the truck show didn't appreciate,
Yeah.
and so they had 4 tickets for C10s in the park, which is coming in September.
Right.
That the young fellow that made a mistake had already purchased his tickets, so they told him he couldn't come back for the next show.
Mm.
So they took his 4 tickets and they put them on eBay to sell them. And they figured, we'd get $100. They were $25 tickets
Yeah.
to come to see tents in the park.
Yeah.
But they only sell out 1,000. And there's people from all over the United States that want to
Yeah.
come to see tents in the
Big
park.
following. Yeah.
So 4 tickets. I just talked to Terry last night, and he said they sold for $4,400
Wow.
for 4 $25 tickets. So the idea was, and Terry and I talked about it tomorrow with the Parks Department. What they're going to do is donate the money to the city to buy trees to put in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy a 4-inch caliper, 6-inch caliper trees. Probably a 4 is what they'll get
Yeah.
for $350, $400.
Yeah.
So $4,400 is 10 trees.
Yeah. That's
So
nice.
I said dedicate it to Matthews Park.
Right.
Get with the city and the city can order the trees and use that money for that purpose.
Very nice.
So yeah, well, I mean it's
So let me ask you this: the city, so when it's like that out there at Garden Valley, is the city when a development is built in a park, goes inside that development?
right.
The city's responsible for maintaining and servicing that. Is that right, or
Unless
is it just
the HOA, I mean the HOA could have a pool
right?
and have their own rules and regulations, and it's
Okay.
theirs and they control it.
Yeah.
We don't service the pools.
Right.
Now the green space is usually what's dedicated to the
Okay.
city during the development agreements.
Okay.
So, and that, with Matthews Park, when Clyde built that subdivision, that was part of the dedication.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Very good. So there you go with our parks. As most of you, if not all of you, know, running for office, regardless of the office, takes a lot of energy, takes money, takes time, takes effort, takes a painstaking toll on the person running sometimes, usually. I wouldn't want to do it, and yet I have watched countless folks who have done it. Some have done it very well, some haven't. David, you've run for office 4 or 5 times. I don't know if you've had to campaign each time. I guess it just depends on whether or not you were opposed or unopposed. But I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to share, particularly with this recent experience. You weren't even running, but you went through a difficult time and are still processing all of that. But I thought it would be helpful for folks just to hear from a mayor candidate, a city council member, what that support system means to you and how it's impacted you.
Well, I mean, in a small community, you wouldn't think it would be much of a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about legislative things later, but there was a bill in the House for small communities like us to be partisan.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see you file as a Republican, file as a Democrat, and
Right.
and for city councils, and school boards.
Right.
It didn't make it. I think they figured out that it doesn't work for them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if it doesn't work for us, how's it going to work for anybody that's on a lesser, scale down there on the bottom of this stuff?
Right.
So obviously the support of people means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're your people that are going to vote for you. They're friends that you see at church, you play baseball with, you see it in IHOP and every place you go, so they're all around you. My biggest supporter, obviously, is my wife.
Right.
And she is a small-framed young lady, but has some long teeth. So I don't even argue with her.
You don't mess with her.
No,
Yeah.
I don't mess with her. No, but 46 years of marriage, we've been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if all else fails around us, we have Christ and each other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's our nucleus right there of who we are and our support system.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes out from there with people that we know. But it's for anybody. I don't care if it's Travis. He has a family that love him. They want to support him. If it's Billy Wallace, her family supports her. She has people in the community that like her and love her. Doug Barnes, same thing. Pat Suter, Paul Christensen, all of them have people that are around them.
Right.
It's just different people,
Yeah.
and they're not bad people. They're just a bunch. We're all different.
Well, and
So-
it takes a toll on those folks. Like in your case,
Well, it'll
with
wear
Mickey.
you out. Yeah.
And Mickey takes it to heart as much as you do, maybe even more in some cases. You know.
I think a lot of that stuff. If the two of you aren't elected, and one is, then the other is kind of donating their life for what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I enjoy serving in the capacity that I serve in. I don't get anything. I don't get paid for it. But Mickey supports me 100%.
Right.
We don't take vacations. We don't go any. We stay in the city.
Yeah.
We try. So that's a sacrifice for her. She has no skin in the game. It's mine.
Yeah.
But she pays a reasonable price
Sure.
for just backing someone that's crazy enough to run for public office and not get paid for it.
Yeah. That's.
Did I have to say it, not get paid for it enough? Or
Yeah. You can
don't
say it
get paid?
again if you want to.
Yeah. But that's the desire of my heart, and she's a tremendous support staff.
Yeah. I mean, I admire folks like Mickey and the other spouses of other candidates that are right there with you and with the candidate, and have often wondered what it's like. I mean, I can only imagine if my sweet wife were to run for office, which she never will, but if she were to run for office and missiles were thrown at her and
Right.
people taking cheap shots and things
Now she
happen.
Mickey doesn't like that.
No.
And Mickey's known me 46 years. We've been through some bad times, and we've made it through. But here's when you start hearing things in a small community with 40,000 people,
Yeah.
but only 2,000 people vote, and you start hearing stories and lies. I mean, some of them just somebody made up a story when I was just here, hold my beer. I've got enough story I want to tell.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the way it goes. You said this. I sat with a couple the other night for 3 hours in our living room. We talked about the election cycle we just went through.
Yeah.
And the people were saying, well, David, we heard you said this. So I never talked to those people. Have no idea where they would have come from, see.
Yeah.
So that's how, just in the small community, everything talks.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
that's more of a toll than,
Yeah.
yeah. Rest of it.
I can relate to that. Not relate to it, but I understand it. I would say, just as a sidebar here, the reason why there's so much fight, at least in me and the son, and I know other folks, David included, about keeping this city as independent as possible, is because even as it is, can be contemptuous. It can be harsh. It can be difficult, and it can be create divides. And if Waxahachie begins to be sucked up by the national approach, which is very partisan, very hate-filled, very tons of conflict everywhere you turn, then we're going to find ourselves being something we don't want to be. And so the fight remains, and the fight will continue to keep Waxahachie away from partisanship. And I was reading just this morning from somebody posted something about that we've got to be partisan, and this was a Republican, some of our Republican friends, of which I am one, and I know you are as well, just want it to be so partisan that no one can be a Democrat. And so when we start eliminating groups of people because of their political affiliation or preferences, then we're eliminating people who have good ideas, particularly in a small town where people do know each other and we're friends, but we're eliminating people.
Well, and if you get down to who's Democrat, who's Republican, who's independent, who's socialist, who's Marxist, who's Leninist,
Communist,
whatever,
yeah.
communist, I mean, just those, whatever percentile and group you fall into, are we going to have to wear a tag of some sort so people know it? Because most people I talk to, I would never know what party they're affiliated with,
Right.
Unless they were to tell me. Or I look at the bumper sticker and it says Biden or Trump or whatever,
Right.
and I might say, well, he could be.
Yeah.
Or you may see a yard sign during the campaign. Most people don't wear their political views on their sleeve, and so I was just had a meeting with over 400 members of different communities, city council members, mayors, and all kinds of stuff. Legislative wrap-up down in Austin. Have no idea what they were.
Right.
They're all asking the same question: how does this new legislation apply to my city? That's what I need to know. That's all they're asking.
Right.
And even the guy that's up on the dais that was talking, one of the lawyers said, because we were talking about this very thing we're talking about now, he said something that I've always said is the pothole doesn't know if you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah.
He said that. I'm thinking, that guy's been...
You
he's
should
been
sue
reading
him
my
for
Facebook
copyright.
page.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah.
So now I got to use something else now.
Yeah.
So the word's out. But I don't... at City Hall, we just don't... It's not an issue. Chuck was... You couldn't tell Chuck. Chuck, he could have been a hard Democrat, fine. You would never know by any vote that he ever made because there's not a vote in there. It was Democrat or Republican.
Right.
So now what you have is when this gets interjected into the small communities, you have people that are going to be beholding to whoever supported them. So if the Republican Party endorsed anybody and said, I'm backing you, or we need to get these people in there, then they have expectations of you immediately. So if you don't kind of toe the party line, we've discussed this in the past, then there's going to be ramifications in the next election. Right. They're already talking about that now.
Right.
They're talking about running somebody against me in the next session to get that guy out because he supported a Democrat.
Yeah.
He's not even and now I'm not even a Republican in their eyes, and I'm thinking I'm going to run again, and we'll see how that'll work. But that it's just more of a divide. It's not good for small communities like this.
It can create, as I mentioned before, it can create havoc. So for those of you listening, I would ask that you join those of us who want to keep Waxahachie nonpartisan, that we don't stand for people coming in and saying, tell me the letter by your name before I can embrace the idea or think about the idea that you're proposing. It's the old quote, two people always agree, only one of them is needed. So, another good example, and then we'll move on, but we ran a story the other day about Beto O'Rourke coming to town. Now, if there were a list of politicians or candidates for any office, and Beto O'Rourke was on it, he'd be the last one. I would just rather not have anybody. That's how much I dislike the policies and the approach by Beto O'Rourke. However, he came to town, and his whole purpose was to, he had 100 people show up at Getson Dinner. His whole purpose was to encourage people to vote. That's a message that's worth, regardless of who's saying it, that's worth something. And yet, there were people who were angry at us because we ran a story about Beto O'Rourke. Keep in mind, I endorsed Trump while at the Daily Light several years ago, and still feel the same as I did then. But the idea that we would reject a message about going out to vote because of the guy, the messenger, or what letters by the messenger's name is insane. And it doesn't matter to me who's advocating that approach of eliminating the Democrats in this case from the thought process, but it's got to be rejected. So we're beginning to, as I mentioned to somebody earlier today, it's like the blob, big thing of green blob slime, just slowly, like lava. You see how lava overtakes something? It's slowly beginning to permeate, and we got to stop it. That's why I spend so much time bringing attention to it. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
that's the story.
that is.
Okay. The other night, first council meeting with
Yes.
the new council. How did things go?
I think we had 15, 18, 20 items on the agenda,
Yeah.
and it went just like it's supposed to go. Yeah.
Some big ticket items were on that agenda.
Yeah.
In the millions.
Yeah.
There were no pushbacks or no disruption of what's been worked on for a number of years.
Here's where you go. When you start, now it's time that you find out what's really there.
Right.
Right. All the chitter and the chat is over.
Mm-hmm.
The campaigns are finished.
Yeah.
So now you come in, you look at an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
3 things from planning and zoning, a couple plats. Okay. That's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's already gone through planning and zoning. It's already got, I mean, it's taken years to get to where it is right now.
Right.
You're not going to turn down the plat because it's legal and meets all the qualifications. Then we have about 10 or 15 consider items that are capital plans, expenditures, transfers of funds, buying a generator for wastewater.
Yeah.
$1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $8 million. And so you're spending a lot of money.
Right.
A lot of it is out of former bonds that we have, balances, future bonds, and so nobody's sitting there. If Beto O'Rourke had been sitting there, he would have just voted yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
you have the money. You need a generator backup in case electricity goes out and ERCOT doesn't get together
Yeah.
and have a meeting wherever they are.
Yeah.
So we need a backup generator. Everything we're spending money on is stuff that the city needs.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Strength used to say, we're really taking care of the basics. We'll get ice cream after everything else is finished. We're still in that mode.
Okay.
Every time we put something down in the ground or on top of the ground, it's paid for at that point, but it's going to have to be replaced and maintained in the future. Right. And we know that, and we're still taking care of stuff. After the big freeze, when we had that, we're still rebuilding some areas, electrical equipment that was antiquated. This generator is backup for next time we have something like that.
Yeah,
You don't
God
know.
forbid, yeah.
Had we known,
Yeah.
we were almost out of water,
Yeah.
and you've heard that. So
I have.
because we didn't have electricity.
Yeah.
If we'd had a generator, we'd have the water back up and running. We wouldn't have had the lines frozen.
What does a generator like that cost?
That's $1.5 million, $2 million
Yeah.
to get it. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that they're going to put one out there at the Lake Waxahachie, for those pumps that pump raw water.
How big of a generator is that? I mean, in size?
It's
Is it like
big.
a mobile home, or?
It's as big as a single wide.
Yeah.
It's not a double, but
It's big.
it's a pretty good size generator.
Yeah.
We've got several pumps out there that once they go down and the water starts to freeze, you got quite a bit of an expense.
Crank it up.
Plus,
Yeah.
you can't get water to the water treatment plant.
Gotcha. Okay. We will, each time a council meeting happens, which is the first and third Mondays of the month, I believe, the Sun always covers anything substantive that we want to share with you in the Sun, but David and I will talk about it, any items that are of substantive nature as well. So first one went well, and we'll just see how things continue to go. I suspect as we get deeper into the budget, we'll learn a lot more.
Yes.
Okay, so you and Mickey spent a day or half a day or maybe longer, I don't really know, but in Austin.
I went by myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
So you went by yourself, spent some time in Austin about legislative stuff.
Yes.
Now, for me, that would be a form of torture, but for you as a former mayor and city council person, want to know as much as possible. So just what happened and why is it necessary? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the TML, which is Texas Municipal League, has a 4-part program throughout the year. So every time the legislature goes into session until they sine die and it's all over. So I'd already gone through the first 3 sessions of it this year, which were videoed.
Yeah.
remote, Zoomed, and they finally had our first face-to-face gathering back at the Hilton
Yeah.
Ballroom there in Austin. So I've gone every year, anyhow, to all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting stuff. I brought the tally sheet. Let me bend down out of the way here because I can't see. I put big print.
That's big.
So there were 87 legislative numbers. 6,927 bills were filed.
That is amazing.
1,073 passed. 1,429 passed out of the 86th legislative session, and 1,073 passed out of the 87th. So this is what goes on down there for the 120 days or whatever it is that they meet, and so they go through and they go through every House bill and Senate bill that passed, and that's what it takes. It's a 6-hour breakfast. With all the lawyers and the people that work for TML. So they went over Senate Bill 2s, 10s, 7s, House bills.
So how many total bills? 600 and, almost 7,000 bills
7,000
were
bills filed.
So is it fair for me to assume
But
that
that's not even talking about resolutions. There was over 10,000 documents that were filed. 6,000 were actually bills that were filed.
And that probably happens every legislative session.
Yeah,
So
10 to 11 every time.
At some point, it's fair to believe that, in maybe rare cases, that a bill is dreamt up by somebody, then submitted, that I don't know, rather creative, or you wonder what in the world.
Well, you just wonder. The one in that everybody was laughing about was the honeybees and rabbits and chickens. There's a bill for that says that cities that you can only have 6 chickens if you live in a city. You can have 6 rabbits, but you can't have 6 chickens and 6 rabbits. You can only have 10 total. So if you want 6 chickens, you can have 6 chickens. If you don't want 6 chickens, you can have 6 rabbits. But if you want to have chickens and rabbits, you got to knock a rabbit out and a chicken.
2 of those little darling animals are going to
We're talking
be
supper.
rejected.
Yeah, pets are gone. And then if you want bees, you can have 2 hives. But if you want hives, I think they knocked the bees out at the end, and then the whole thing just fell apart after that. So, but they had honeybee people come up there arguing for the bees, saying that everybody should have honeybees in their backyard.
I bet you won't be one in my backyard.
No.
Furthermore,
rabbits.
Well,
and they had to be senior rabbits. They couldn't be kid rabbits. So they had to be old rabbits. But they didn't say for boy and the girl rabbit. You put 6 rabbits together.
Yeah, you put 6 rabbits together, you're going to have 40 in about 3 days.
You got expanding the family. So.
Yeah, well, and plus, who would monitor that? Just, out of curiosity, any idea?
Well, no. But see, you go from a ridiculous stuff like that to where we get to the constitutional carry.
Yeah.
So they go through all that stuff, and it's if you once you get involved in what we do, it becomes very interesting because a lot of it impacts what you do. Mm-hmm. And so they're talking about different laws that they're passing on appraisal districts because we're still trying to deal with how do we curb that increase in appraisals. Right. And taxing entities where sales tax will be applied if where the transaction is consummated, I think is what they say. Who gets the sales tax? If it's sold here and I ship it to Bangor, Maine, does Bangor, Maine get to collect the sales tax on a product that was manufactured in Texas? So that's up for they're talking about this stuff.
Yeah, and those are big deals.
So, but I think one of the most interesting things that I learned was we do a lot of tax. We don't do a lot of tax abatements, but we do tax abatements sometimes for different industries.
Yeah.
When that industry comes in the city of Waxahachie, there's 3 abatements they're looking for. One is the county. Mm-hmm. They look for the city, and they look for the school district. Mm-hmm. Well, we do 380 deals. The county usually follows what we do percentage-wise. If we give 50-50 on tax abatement for a 5-year period, the county will kind of follow that. They won't try to go 60-40 or 75-25 for
Yeah.
2 years. They'll just kind of follow what the city does.
Yeah.
Small potatoes. When it gets to the school district, a lot more money is involved in the school district. So we do 380 deals. School fell under Chapter 313, which every 10 years you have to re-up that. It fell on the floor this year.
Really?
And wasn't passed. So at this point right now, if you come in and ask for tax abatements, don't ask to go to the third stop because they can no
Waste of
longer
time.
do it.
Yeah.
They cannot. So, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So nobody knows. They're going to reconvene. Obviously, we're going to have another session here, I think, soon. And
Yeah.
some of those things may come back up. But so that's so you get. Who would know that?
Yeah.
If you're not sitting there listening to it or paying attention
Yeah,
to it
for
online.
sure.
I mean, a lot of junkies are on computer watch and all this stuff. They follow the calendars. But this is the benefit of having TML for small communities like us. Some of this stuff we don't have time to go out and gather that information on our own.
Right.
So we go to a clearinghouse like TML does, and they bring up all of that stuff. So we went through, I think there was about 250 bills that directly impact the city of our size.
Yeah.
And one of them was the partisan elections, and
Right.
being against that that didn't pass.
Yeah. Good.
So
Shouldn't.
it's very informative, and you drive down real quick, and you go through that, and then you drive right back.
Were you the only one that went from the city?
I think I was the only one there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody else. But I mean, it's all of from everybody from the state. All of the state come.
How many people
come to
total
Austin.
were there, you think?
About 400 or 500.
Yeah.
It was a packed house.
Yeah.
So, and they come. When I was trying to check out that morning, get out of the parking garage, I kept trying to stick my credit card in, and it wouldn't go in the slot. So I put my glasses on, I reached down, and I looked, and there was a credit card already in there, a little red credit. So I pulled it out, and I stuck mine in. People were honking at me behind there. That's probably why the other guy's credit card was still in there too. They were honking at him. But everybody wanted to leave, so find out the credit card belongs to assistant DA that lives up in this area.
Oh.
And I made contact with him and threw it in the mail to him today. But
Very good.
But so that's so we have district attorneys that are
Right.
that are sitting in the same meetings because all this stuff is stuff that they'll go back now and be able to distribute out amongst the people. So
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for going.
yeah, enjoyed it.
All right, that's it for today. Again, a reminder that will not be a sunspot next week, the week of June 28th. We will pick back up the week of whatever that following week is. I know the July 4th falls in it, so we'll pick back up then. We have a promotion coming. We'll be telling you all about that. A chance for one person to play along and win between $300 and $500 a month. So we're excited about that. I thank you, David, for continuing to be here. I think
Enjoyed
it's
it.
important. More and more people are reaching out and telling us that they appreciate what they're learning here. And as you can tell, it'll be less about politics and candidates and that kind of stuff, which will be refreshing for all of us. So thank you for joining in. Have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.